morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, it's a dark morning in the nation's capital here in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And as you see, you've got a solo Grizzly once again. I am feeling pretty good this morning. I don't know why, but I am. And I'll take it because feeling good is, well, good. I have a number of things I got to get done today. And one of them being I got to head over to the second day of the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness, the 2024 conference that's happening here in downtown Ottawa at the former Shaw Centre, which I'm now have been informed is called the Rogers Centre. So there's some confusion there, perhaps. So yeah, I got a few things I got to do. Hopefully, I'm going to have a chance to talk to Guy Felicelia today. He is the keynote speaker this morning. He should be on at about 8:30, I believe. So I'm not leaving here right away. I'm going to hang out for a bit. I'm going to show you the interview I had with Iain DeJong yesterday, and I mispronounced his name at the start of the interview. He corrected me, and I was asking him if I had it right or wrong. You'll see that in just a couple of seconds. And yeah, it's going to be a busy day for me today. I have the conference this morning, then I have another conference I have to attend in another part of the city, and then I have a 1:00 online conference that I have to tune into while I'm at a conference, while I'm virtually attending another conference, and I have to finish narrating a book today. Or tomorrow, sorry. So yeah, it's a very busy day for me in this world. I don't know. Douglas is ill today. Mr. Beaver is ill today. He was yesterday. I don't know what his illness is. If he has a chance to get himself tested, I don't believe it's COVID. I don't know what it is because he says he's feeling really, really sick. Either way, hopefully he will be back again very soon. In the meantime, I want to present you with this wonderful interview I had yesterday with Iain DeJong, and just sit back and relax. It's about 24 minutes-ish, thereabouts. Give it a go. I've got to take care of some housework here in the background, if you will. Take care of a few different things. Oh, darn it. Okay, give me a minute here while I fix something. The quirky thing about this software is sometimes I want to share a video, and to do so, I have to open up a web page because it won't let me do it in the actual video file. So here's hoping the web page works well. I downloaded the video, and here's hoping I can play it with audio. I noticed that when I went to embed it, it wouldn't go because sometimes the system just doesn't allow for that. But let me just check on something here. Yeah, I could upload the video clip, but it would be too big because it's about an 8 gig file. It's a 4K recording, so yeah, it's pretty big. So let's see if we can air this. I'll downgrade it to 1080p so it should air quicker. It should work a little bit better because you don't need any more than 1080p here. So let's give this a go and see if it works out. Hopefully it does. And where are we? There we are. Here we are. This is my interview with Iain DeJong, President and CEO of OrgCode. Hello, and I am here with Iain DeJong. Did I say your surname correctly?
DeJong.
DeJong? Okay.
It's for my grandfather. We'd say DeJong. There we go.
No, that makes sense. So you are the CEO and President of OrgCode.
That's correct.
Now, OrgCode.
Yes.
Where does the name come from? Is it like a computer coding thing? Or?
No, so a common misperception. So
Okay.
it is actually really about the DNA of what makes organizations or communities tick. And really getting down to the code of what does it mean to relate to each other on the very basic levels of understanding that I succeed when you succeed.
I like that. So I saw you speak earlier today, and some of the things you were saying really struck a chord with me. The thing that you talked about most was when speaking to people in encampments, having, you don't send a different person each day. You want to keep sending the same person back so it breeds familiarity and a comfort level, correct?
Yes.
What I also noticed was you said, and I was like, yep, I couldn't agree with you more. You'll get a group of young people together who will say, let's go help the homeless. Well-intentioned, but it shows them handing out socks and sandwiches to a few people in an encampment. It doesn't fix anything, does it?
No, I mean, it's, on the one hand, you want to say to those groups, like student groups, I love that you're interested in a complex social issue, right? Like, so I never want to take away that enthusiasm.
Right.
What I wish they did, especially when it comes to student groups who should know something about studying, study the issue, study which organizations are involved, and then ask an organization, how best can we support your efforts, as opposed to assuming people are doing nothing and just going doing their own thing? Because what they don't understand is that sometimes they actually are creating a bigger problem, whether it's trash or they assume, they being like the broader community assumes that student group was outreach, and outreach is handing out socks and sandwiches and not trying to get people a house or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And so if we could channel that enthusiasm in a better way, we'd all be better off.
Well, the other thing I thought that was really poignant was you said to change people's way of thinking, no longer say harm reduction, say wellness promotion.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, that is brilliant in and of itself, due to the fact that, as soon as you say wellness promotion, everybody thinks, going to the spa, going to do a cold dip or whatever. So it changes the perception as opposed to harm reduction, which means, that person living in a tent who's got a needle stuck out of their arm. So if we can change the perception, I think in many ways we can change the way people approach it.
Yeah.
Because right now we have a politician who wants to become the next prime minister, and I don't want to get political here too much, but he keeps using homeless encampments as a cudgel.
Yes, he does.
And I have no tolerance for that personally. Politically speaking, I think it's terrible because all he's doing is bringing more harm onto people. And of course you would know this because you work directly with people in encampments.
Yeah, I've found that and it doesn't matter what the stripe is or the level, when politicians want to use encampments as a backdrop, if they're focused on solutions, like let's get some housing going, I might be able to engage in the visual. But when it's blaming people,
yes,
what I've come to a point is that rather than accepting that there have been failed policies in the place of like housing and support dollars, mental health, access to substance use recovery, etc., instead we're at the place where we're not talking about failed systems anymore. We're talking about, in their words of politicians, failed people. Right? And failed
which
people
is the worst thing
is really where we get into this conversation around involuntary treatment and criminalization of homelessness and bad people en masse, and we need to do something, and suspending charter rights or whatever the case may be. And I come back to, okay, all right, let's do some basics of access to resources, and let's have a grown-up conversation around how do we keep people alive until such time as we can get them to the resource that is available or that they need.
Keep them alive. That's the important factor that they seem to just throw out the window.
And I think for all of my colleagues that have worked in the space of harm reduction for decades, they're getting it on the chin right now.
Oh, I know.
Even though they're doing some extraordinary measures to keep people alive, they are seen as the problem or as enabling the problem, as opposed to the people who have worked their guts out to keep people alive until that treatment bed is available, until the person wants housing, until the person can see a physician, etc. So my angle on wellness promotion is really, that's part of what harm reduction is.
Absolutely.
So it's not distorting what they're doing.
No.
It's just reframing what they're doing. And I found it's become a lot more palatable with people. It's like, I would never support harm reduction. But then you say, like, what about supporting people until they can access care? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm all in favor of that.
Well, here we go, right?
Here we go, right?
Reframing it, brilliant. I don't know who came up with that. If you or anybody in your God bless them.
Thank you.
Because that is brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. I think because it literally changes the focus. Now, I am for harm reduction.
Me too.
Right? But when you said wellness promotion, literally it even changed my view. And I'm for harm reduction. So I think if we can really start to promote that message of wellness promotion, it'll change a lot of hearts and minds.
I hope so.
Now, one of the other things I said to you earlier was, when we first met, was that I said, I think there's a lot of people in this room who have never actually had boots on the ground, firsthand experience.
Yeah.
I am not taking away from anything anybody that is here today to do. I think everybody here is well-intentioned. I think everybody wants to make a difference. I think a lot of the folks that are here today just simply haven't have that lived experience. And I don't mean actually been homeless. I mean worked in an encampment, and not for like a one-day volunteer, where you actually get in there and actually meet the people. And the other thing you said that I thought was so poignant was that people want to be listened to. They want to be heard.
Yes, they do.
Right? And it's because they're on the margins of society. We oftentimes just push them off and ignore them and don't look at the problem, and not in my backyard, as you know. And I mean, I just live a few blocks from here. I live right downtown Ottawa. And I see unhoused people all the time. A few of them I know. There's a few people I know who they're housed, but they're like literally, I mean, ODSP.
Yeah, they're heavily street involved to get their needs met, even though they might have a roof at night.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a choice.
Right. Their living room is your street corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see them and I talk to them. I help them out when I can. I mean, but it's like, I honestly, as much good is going to be done here over the next few days, and what we can accomplish, and some of the things the president and CEO of Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness said, we've got record numbers of money being invested into homes, into this, all wonderful, all good. And tell me how you feel about this. Yeah. You don't have to agree with me. But I think the fact that we still have food banks and we have a larger growing homeless population, that our governments have failed us, and as society we have failed.
So I think absolutely we are witnessing a rebound on failure. And I think the pendulum swung so far in a post-pandemic reality, both the economics of housing as well as the deficiencies in other systems. And that's where I was saying, some politicians really are blaming failed people for failed systems, right? Or something to that effect. And I think in that space, I am grateful that any order of government, province, territory, feds, local, regional, county, wants to invest in housing and homelessness. I say good on you. And even if you're late to the party, better to show up than never to show up at all. All right, you are welcome here if you got investment or land, or you can cut through red tape on development, whatever. We'll take it. Right? We'll take it. And in that narrative, we need to speak to people experiencing homelessness to make sure their needs are being met, rather than our ribbon cutting soothing our egos. And we need to...
You just took my knees out from under me with that one.
Right, we need to acknowledge that every single one of those individuals or couples or families that we're supporting didn't get here overnight.
No.
Right? In most instances, it's a series of personal disconnection that then leads to connections with systems, and then systems that tell you that there's wait lists, or you need to have this diagnosis first, or you need to see that person first, or prove to us that you're economically poor, or whatever. So rather than meeting people where they're at, we try to screen people out more than we try to screen them in. And I think if we want an inclusive society that's serious about ending homelessness, it has to start with end user needs driving the system, rather than system trying to change people.
Well, I can speak to some of that you just talked about from a personal level. About 12 years ago, the company I was working for at the time, I went from working 70 hours a week to 60 to 40 to 20 to 10, and then no work. And as you started to watch your savings go. So then I found myself, I got a layoff, but I had no money coming in. And I needed money immediately because it was a diminish, right? It was a slow slide. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I applied for EI, but the last few weeks were not good, so the money I would get would be small. So I'm like, I need money right now. So I went to Ontario Works. I have secret clearance, and I've filled out the forms for top secret clearance in the past. I just didn't do the phone interview because the contract didn't go through, so I didn't get it. I answered less questions for top secret security clearance to work at the RCMP than I did to get $750 from Ontario Works, which I didn't end up taking because I got a job offer the next day. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of friends send me some cash to just carry me over until I got my first check. But I see how the system literally weeds people out. And Ontario Works, I'm like, okay, my apartment, I live in a rent-controlled building. I've been there 14 years. It's $1,089 a month. Mm-hmm. ODSP wouldn't cover that. Mm-hmm. Ontario Works is about $300 shy of that. Mm-hmm. So we're literally forcing people into the street right now.
We are. And what we're seeing is two things. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I want to say that we're seeing, which is really quite remarkable, is the ongoing resilience of people living in poverty in difficult times.
They just keep their head above water.
Like just something about that intestinal fortitude that says, this sucks, the money isn't enough, I'll figure out an odd job, I'll figure out a task I can do, day labor, something to keep going. And for those folks that never touch our system, that we never talk about,
they're suffering too.
They're suffering large at this time. And then there are those that end up in our system. Mm-hmm. And for those that they've never touched the homelessness system before, what they think it's going to be like and what it's actually like are two completely different things.
Yeah.
Right? The autonomy is replaced with control. So, you no longer decide when you're going to bed or when your light's turned off or when you're going to rise in the morning or what you're going to eat.
Right.
That's controlled for you.
It's almost a bit like being in a prison.
Well, it's certainly a level of control that most people aren't realized or used to in their life. And it can be really discomforting to know that when I do reach out for support, that there's more hoops to jump through. Now, some of them, if they're related to understanding your service needs, I would say we can phase in those conversations over time, right? Like I might say to you, here's a little bit of assistance, see what you can do with it. Don't force me to overserve you in a way that's going to diminish your autonomy and capabilities. But if you're struggling, I should be able to increase my service to you.
Right.
As opposed to saying, oh, wow, you're too high needs now.
So,
Right? Go somewhere else. So we need to, again, adjust programs and services to meet the needs of people. But instead what we're doing is telling the people to adjust to the system, fill out this form or answer these questions or figure out how you're going to pay for your apartment that's more than $750 a month when you're only getting $750 a month. And just saying, like, figure it out. As opposed to,
here, let me help you.
Let me help you figure out how to figure this out. Or even increasing assistance. In Ontario, as an example, rates for income assistance, ODSP went up slightly.
Yeah. So I'll give Ford government respect. They're the first one to increase it in how many years?
In a gazillion years.
Right?
That's not technical, but a long time.
But
I would love to see adjustments that Ontario Works actually index to inflation.
It should be.
On a regular basis, because the number of people that were scraping by who are now experiencing homelessness or at the precipice of homelessness for economic reasons alone, that they cannot afford their place. And people often say things like, well, it's the addiction causing homelessness or it's the mental illness causing homelessness.
Those are factors, sure.
They can be factors, but here's the statistical reality. Most people with an addiction or mental illness in Canada are housed. They're not experiencing homelessness.
Correct.
Overwhelmingly.
Correct.
So
we've talked about that on the show, actually.
We need to stop pathologizing this experience of homelessness or treating it as a moral failing or a character flaw and treat it as what it is, which is a housing problem.
It is a housing problem.
It is often a housing with support need, but it's always a housing need. And if we don't focus on that, we lose our eyes on the prize.
Well, and to think of I mean, I've lived in Ottawa a long time. I was born in Toronto and I'm a military kid. I lived all over the country, right? An Ottawa winter is not an easy thing to go through if you don't have shelter. And I've seen people out on the street and I'm like, oh my, come, let me take you and buy you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, why don't you take them into your house? And I go, I have a wife and a dog.
Yeah.
In a one-bedroom apartment.
Things are kind of tight around here.
Well, and money's kind of snug right now, so you do what you can when you can, but honestly, it should be incumbent upon, well, again, it starts at the municipal level, and then funding is usually from the province.
Yeah.
Well, Province is not funding properly, hasn't in a very long time. We need to get maybe the federal government involved to say, listen, the provinces, they've dropped the ball right across the country in every province. The only province that seems to be actually turning things around is Manitoba. And again, I don't belong to any particular political party. I never have, I never will. But what the NDP in Manitoba, which looks like the Joe Clark Progressive Conservatives, you know, they said, we'll give you a hand up, not a handout. You need to put in the effort. So they're going to help the people who need help. But if you're of a certain amount of ability, we're gonna give you the push along you need. We all also have to accept the fact that there is going to be a certain percentage of the population that simply, for whatever reason or cost, cannot work. Oftentimes it could be a single illness, a catastrophic accident. And I mean, honest to goodness, I'm one catastrophic accident away from that. If I was to get hit by a bus later today, okay, sure, I'd get a payday from it eventually, but...
And from now until then?
From now until then, how am I going to survive, right? So we don't... Our social contract needs a lot of work, as you well know. Our social safety net needs to be beefed up tremendously. And of course, you'll have the naysayers that will say things like, well, if you start giving people that much money, they're not going to work. Well, that's not entirely true. Most people will do simple things like improve their lives, get money saved for the first time, maybe get some dental work done. And now that we have a dental program, that'll help. Maybe go back to school, increase their education so they can pursue the job they've always wanted, but they've never been upwardly mobile enough to do that before.
Right.
So the announcement came out earlier today. I don't know if you're aware of this. Doug Ford is going to be giving $200 to everybody in Ontario in the new year. So I'm like, so Doug, you actually do believe in a UBI? Well, it's, you know,
a one-timer.
A one-timer,
before the election,
yeah.
but
yeah. Because what he said, the best way to stimulate the economy is to put money in people's pockets. Okay, so wouldn't a UBI do that? I don't have any solutions. I have a million questions, and I was just happy to have a chance to chat with you because of what you were talking about, your points, the way you're addressing things. I've never seen anybody talk about it in that way before. I've seen people talk about it in the way that they're very distanced from it, and studies have, and this and that, whereas I found what you put together was from real lived experience, whether it's people that you've worked with, whether it's your boots on the ground approach. It really, I came in here, I'm not gonna lie, I came in here a little bit sort of, 2,000 people here. You know how many people we could house in this building right now? Like, that's where my head was at. I've been accused of being a left-wing socialist. I'm not.
Right.
I'm very much a centrist, but I'd like to see people get help. And a matter of fact, and the listeners and the viewers will know this as I talk about it, Wednesday nights I have a Scotch and Cigar Club, and the guys I hang out with, most of them are 10 to 15 years older than me. I'm 56.
Okay.
And a lot of these guys are lifelong progressive conservatives who have said, we need to end homelessness. If we have to start building barracks with small rooms in each of them, we can do this before, we've done it before, we can do it again. We need to end homelessness. And he goes, I don't care what it costs. It's costing us too much right now. I'm like, that's where it is. That's where the button is. Also, all of these guys, lifelong progressive conservatives, full support of a UBI. Because they know it costs less money.
Yeah.
That's fiscal responsibility.
Well,
taking care of each other.
It's probably one of the most least understood parts of the response to homelessness is that it's actually cheaper to house and support a person than it is to maintain them in their houselessness.
I know.
And you say that sometimes to people and they look at you like, how could that possibly be? And then you start breaking it down, right? What does it cost for a person to receive shelter services if they use a shelter? What does it cost to receive street outreach services? How many times do they go to the ER? How many police interactions do they have? And you kind of go through the list and they're like, that adds up really fast.
Yes, it does.
You know, Malcolm Gladwell, many years ago, wrote an article for the New Yorker called $1 Million Murray. Your listeners may want to do a little Google search on that. And it was the first time that he had shown the spotlight on keeping people in homelessness is more expensive than trying to end their homelessness. And I thought, even though it's many years ago that the article came out,
it's still valid.
It's still valid.
The numbers may have skewed,
exactly,
but it's still valid.
I would sleep much better at night knowing that there weren't people that were costing millions of dollars and retaining their homelessness when we could have housed and supported that person many times over with the same investment.
Yeah.
And what's ridiculous in all this I think.
Well, and we could also probably, with that same investment, right?
Yeah.
Because if we're spending a lot less, maybe we could put that into, I don't know, post-secondary education?
Yeah.
Right?
So the thing is, it's not that we don't know what to do. We actually do know what to do.
It's the will to do it.
Yeah, it's not that we don't know how to end homelessness. We absolutely know how to end homelessness.
They did it in Finland.
We're choosing not to do it.
We're choosing not to do it.
So
Yes.
it's a policy choice. And it's a choice that people say, well, we'll invest just the right amount of money to deal with the crisis. No, we need to invest just the right amount of money to prevent a future crisis from happening.
Well, I mean, CERB and CEWS, I got one CERB check and then we started getting the CEWS. So I sat at home for 2 months twiddling my thumb, losing my mind, going, what's going to happen? Is the world going to end? Like we all did in March 2020. Then I was like, I had just leased a new vehicle for work. Right? So I'm on the hook for 4 years for a vehicle that all of a sudden I have no income. They're like, well, use your savings. And I go, that's not going to last very long if I have no income. Oh yeah, CEWS came in, that saved my bacon. Now, I ran at 20% of my income for almost a year.
Sorry, it was 20% less of my income. I had 80% of my salary. I got the numbers a little mixed up there I had several cups of coffee at the time.
Right.
And they weren't paying for the vehicle. So,
Right.
because I had a vehicle allowance prior and then that didn't. So I lost lots of money, right? And people said, oh, well, tough on you. I'm like, but okay, there was people who came here and camped out for 3 weeks because they were complaining about losing. I lost too, but I didn't. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here, sorry, but
Okay.
we all lost.
Yeah.
Everybody suffered, but CEWS and CERB saved millions of Canadians.
Yeah.
So why can't we do that for everyone?
I think it's an excellent question. Why can't we do the things that we know are possible?
And we know they work.
Yeah.
Finland, like I said, they've ended homelessness in Finland, effectively. They housed everybody, and I think 75 or 80% of the people they've had housed got clean, sober. Some of them went back to school, some of them got jobs for the first time. Having a place to live gives you stability.
Yeah.
When you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep at night,
Yeah.
where you're going to use a toilet, which, as you know, for an unhoused person is a big issue.
Huge issue. We all got to go.
And then forget about taking a shower. So they had not too long ago, Algonquin College did over 24 hours of homelessness. They just did it down the street here in the park. And I went to talk to them and I said, listen, I have an idea and I'd like to talk to you about this. I know we're getting a little bit off here. I sometimes do that, ADHD brain.
Right.
But it evolves around the same thing. So they had a thing where a bunch of students were out for 24 hours in the park. I said, this is a great idea. Now we started something last year called the Mental Health Walk, capital M, capital E, capital N, Mental Health Walk, because let's face it, men's mental health supports are a joke in this country. Anxiety and depression, medication. Some days are tough, a little anxious at the moment, but I'll be fine. I've also had 6 cups of coffee, so.
There could be lots of reasons why you got the jitters.
Yeah, that's got a lot to do with it. But we have the mental health walk. So what we do is we get together and we do a 5K walk around the national capital, and then we meet at a pub afterwards and talk about it. It's like, guys, you need to talk to one another. So I said to them, how about, because we do that on the Saturday before Father's Day, I said, how about we see if we can get City Council to knock off on Friday at noon, do 24 hours in the park. So it's in June, not October. So they're not going to freeze. Do 24 hours in the park and then do the walk with us and then sit and talk about the 24 hours of homelessness, which means you have no cell phone, no cash, like nothing. You have whatever you go to the park with. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a stupid idea or a good idea?
So I think
it's awareness thing.
Yeah, it all depends on the education component to the awareness, right? Like I don't believe in exploitive experiences.
No.
Right? But I do believe that there can come with it a connection. It's like one of the other events that happens in lots of places called the coldest night.
Yes.
Right? As another example of like homelessness awareness. And when those homeless weeks are sometimes these sorts of things. And they're all good so long as it's not poverty tourism.
Right.
There has to be some sort of takeaway. And even talking about like men's mental health, awesome that you are doing it. Awesome that there's the conversation.
That came from an idea from a friend of ours in Melbourne, Australia.
I think it's fantastic. And it's about how do we continue beyond the walk. And that doesn't mean we all have to get together all the time and walk or anything, but how do we stay? Conversation keeps going. And if we can do that, then anything is a good idea. The last thing I'd say is, the 24 hours of experiencing homelessness or the mental health walk, let's just make sure that people with lived or living experience are involved in framing that experience for others.
Okay.
So that we're really staying true to their needs and not projecting our experience onto theirs and saying we know what it's like now.
No. You don't know what it's like. You've experienced it for 24 hours, and you get to go home to your warm bed.
Exactly.
And your house and your bank account.
Yeah.
I want you to know what it's like not to have a toilet, not to have a shower for just 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much.
My
Really do
pleasure.
appreciate it, sir.
All right.
It's been an absolute
All
pleasure.
the best.
Thanks.
Cheers.
So that was Mr. Iain Iain DeJong. I almost said something else. Mr. Iain DeJong from Org Code. I'll put it back in the chat here if you missed it. The webpage for Org Code. It is in the chat again. You can look up lots of information about Org Code. They're in Oakville, which is a Toronto area, town, city, community, municipality, et cetera, GTA. Oakville is near Mississauga-ish area. Anyway, good guy, does a lot of good work, boots on the ground, lived experience, you name it. I think honestly, this is a gentleman who needs to get more attention from the country, from our politicians, because he knows what he's talking about. He has folks who work with him who are incredibly passionate about trying to make the world a better place. And as he said in the chat, the discussion, the interview, the conversation we had, that we know how to fix this problem. We know. We know how to fix it. There's just no incentive to do it because the government, and it again, municipal, provincial, and federal, aren't motivated to do it. Period. They're not. Because they're puppet masters. The wealthy people who truly run this country don't want to, because they're able to turn a profit off of poverty. But when you point out to them, when you put the spreadsheet down and show them that it's cheaper to house people, it's cheaper to lift people up, it's cheaper in the long run and fiscally responsible to do so, they don't care. They don't. These are my words, not Mr. DeJong's, okay? I want you to understand that these are my words. The people don't care. The wealthy people who control this country don't care about the poor, about the impoverished, about the homeless. They don't care for the working class. They care about the middle class just enough to keep them in the middle class so that they can dangle the carrot in front of them and keep adding to their bank accounts. It's all a big game. It's all a big machine. Look, like I said in the conversation, I don't have any solutions. I have a million questions. And I do know a couple of things about how things are. And what we need to do is get more people involved. I hate to say this, but from the grassroots level, I hate saying that so much because, I'm allergic to grass, so. Reminds me of a story a couple of years ago when I was in a conference and they were trying to judge the mental health capacities and mental health status of individuals within the workforce that I was in at the time. And in the conference, the first thing they showed was a giant garden with flowers everywhere. And it says, "What do you think when you see this?" And it was an online meeting. What I chuckled about was the amount of people who responded the same way I did. Get me the hell out of here. My allergies are going to explode. I'm going to suffer. It's not going to be pleasant. There were hundreds of answers like that, which I thought was interesting. And I had suggested off to the side, because we did a tech meeting before we began, that I said, well, you might, in the future, because they showed me that, I said, you might want to consider in the future that there's a lot of people that will not find that relaxing or peaceful because of their allergies. So you can't please everybody. You can't solve all the problems, but we can certainly try. When it comes to ending poverty and homelessness, we know how to do it. It's been proven time and time again. The method is there, but there are people in positions of power that need to keep people below them, even if it costs them a little bit more money, because you can show them how it will save them money, but they don't care because they need to feel better than somebody. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. You know you can't. You absolutely cannot. Somebody in a position of power needs to stay at the top of their pyramid, knowing that you're beneath them and they're better than you. That's their thought process. That's just how it is. Okay. I know this is kind of a short and sweet show, but I do have to wrap it up because I have to shower and shave and then take the dog out before I head down to see Guy and hopefully have a chance to sit and have a chat with him like I did with Mr. DeJong. Please check out Org Code. Maybe reach out to Mr. DeJong. Let him know that it was what you thought of the interview, what you thought of the conversation. I'm going to be forwarding this feed along to him shortly, just so he'll have a chance to watch it when he gets an opportunity. And I want to thank him for his time again, because he's a wonderful individual who is doing great work trying to make this world a better place. All right. I want to say thanks to our sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Mood Publishing, CanadianTarot.com, and The Peppermaster for making those hot pepper sauces that I like to put on my foods. My words of wisdom today: get out there and do something to make the world a better place. And guess what? It doesn't have to be monumental. It does not have to be world-changing or earth-shattering. It does not have to move mountains. You know that something as simple as smiling at a stranger can change their world. It works. Get out there and do something today. Make this world the better place we know it can be. It's time to cue the cock.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Just before I go, I do have a quick Easter egg for you that I thought was poignant and important. For our friends in the United States of America with the upcoming election, I normally say I never tell you who to vote for. Vote for the best person in your riding. The system down there is a little bit different than ours. The gerrymandering that goes on in political ridings is beyond belief. I'm not getting into that, though. But what I do want to tell you is that if you vote for Trump, if he becomes the president, this will be
the key that I think that President Trump has promised me is control of the public health agencies, which are HHS and its sub-agencies, CDC, FDA, NIH, and a few others, and then also the USDA, which is key to making America healthy, because we've got to get off of seed oils, and we've got to get off of pesticide-intensive agriculture. The key that I
That's RFK, for those of you who don't know, RFK Jr. I'm not going to necessarily argue with some of his statements in that particular video clip, but this man is off his rocker, in my opinion. I've watched enough of his videos to say, okay, every now and then he hits something on the head, but most of the time he's completely out of his mind. Some of his proposals are completely wackadoodle. And they want to put this guy in charge of healthcare. The guy who had brainworms and ate a dog, that guy, they want to put him in charge of healthcare. Alrighty. Make your decision. Make your choice. Make it wisely. I've got to go. I'll see you tomorrow.